Welcome back to the channel, everybody. If you're like me, and honestly, the majority of the hunters in the United States, then a lot of your hunting experience has been spent on crisp, cool fall days in a tree stand, sitting over a food plot or a feeder, and waiting for the buck of a lifetime to walk in. Now that is where I started my hunting experience. Sitting in a tree in Michigan, waiting for some deer to wander by. And don't get me wrong, Midwest whitetail will always be my first love. But what happens when you start dreaming of something else? The mountains of the West creep into your head, thoughts of bugling bulls or a mule deer buck in a distant basin start really occupying your thoughts. Well, I can tell you I was there as well, and it seemed really overwhelming, right? You guys are used to tree stand hunting in the Midwest, East Coast, Southeast, wherever the case may be. But this is a completely different style of hunting, and it feels very foreign and very overwhelming. Well, 8 years ago when my wife told me we were moving to Arizona, I didn't really have a lot of choice. It was time to adapt. But through that, I learned a ton of lessons on transitioning from the whitetail game to the Western hunting game. And that's what we're gonna go over today. But before we dive into it, I have a promise for you guys. If you guys stick through the whole video, somewhere in it, I'm gonna give you guys the chance to win some free gear. So without further ado, let's jump into the things I've learned and the dumb mistakes I've made so that you don't have to. We'll start with the elephant in the room, and that is physical fitness. You guys probably see it all over Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever the case may be, that you need to be in crazy good shape to hunt the mountains of the West. And I can tell you that it is a different animal, all right? In my hunting experience in the Midwest, it was mostly like, I don't know, a mile at most from the trailhead, and it wasn't crazy incline or decline changes in elevation. You usually are hiking in some pretty crappy rubber boots, but beyond that, it's not anything super intense. You'll have a crazy amount of weight. Maybe you're carrying a tree stand, a saddle set up, some rattling antlers, your bow. It's just not the entire camp setup or anything that you think of when you think of hunting backcountry. So to answer the question, yes, you do need to be in better shape than you would have to be to conquer the Midwest whitetail woods. But it doesn't have to be insane, guys. I will tell you, the more in shape you are, the easier these hunts are. It's just common sense. But you don't need to be in like Iron Man shape. If you guys go to the gym, do a couple of workouts every week, go for a run, maybe put some miles on a bike, you're going to be set up and in good shape. It's not going to be an absolute break off. You're going to have moments where it sucks, don't get me wrong. I think no matter how good of shape you are, these mountains kick your butt. But I think the baseline fitness that you need to be able to kind of conquer some of these hunts is probably not as high as you think. Now I will tell you, despite the fact that climbing these mountains is a lot of cardio, this was my first big mistake. First year out here, focused a lot on cardio, all right? And it's weird, it's like people like trainers and doctors know way more than me, suggest a well-rounded fitness program, and that's really what has worked. Throw in some weightlifting, low weight, high reps, throw in a little bit of high weight, do some cardio, kind of get a well-rounded picture, and you're gonna be in pretty good shape. So don't just focus on cardio, focus on all of it, but know that you don't have to absolutely kill yourself. The better shape you're in, the better setup you're gonna have, but just getting to a base level of, I don't know, competent fitness is going to get you a real long way in these hunts. Topic number 2 that was kind of daunting for me when I first started was the gear that you needed. Now there's no denying that some of the gear is a little bit different, and if you're able to spend some money and get a better pack, better boots, better optics, it's gonna go a long way in the West. But with that said, you guys probably are better equipped already than you think you are. You guys already have good base layers, good socks, good gloves, hats, the whole accessory gamut. You may have to change your outer layers a little bit, or maybe you don't, all right? If you are hunting a late November rifle elk tag or mule deer tag or something of that nature, and you have great setup for the whitetail woods in December in Iowa, well, your stuff might be a little heavy. It may not be designed for backcountry hunting, but you are going to be able to use it and get away with it at the beginning. Same with optics. You probably already have a set of decent 10 power binoculars. Are those going to be the best tool of the trade for out here? No. Are they a great jumping off point? Yes. I think that is really the big key takeaway that I had. Are there better mouse traps and things purpose built for backcountry hunting? Absolutely. Do you already have some stuff that's going to get you in the right direction though? Yeah, and you have a lot more than what you probably realize. The gear thing is not as much of a daunting reality as what you probably think right now. Topic number 3 that I poured a ton of time into was tactics. Now there's no denying that glassing, spotting, and stalking a different ballgame than ambush style tree stand hunting. But when you really break it down, they have a ton of similarities, right? The things you have learned about whitetail, while not exactly directly comparable to elk, are going to give you a tremendous jumping off point on knowing the animal, right? Whitetail like to move in the early morning and late evening. They like to stay in cover. They're not going to push into a food plot until right at that last moment of daylight. They'll probably stay in some thicker cover. Well, same with elk, mule deer, whatever the case may be. You're going to see a lot of common similarities. The places whitetail like to bed, right? Thick cover with good wind, and they are well aware of their surroundings. Well, it's the same thing pretty much every animal is going to do because they like to stay alive. So you already have a tremendous jumping off point in understanding the animal. Beyond that, you've already worked with wind. You understand the importance of it. You've probably messed with thermals a little bit depending on where you're hunting. You understand the difference between pre-rut, post-rut, prime time rut, all right? All of those things are going to give you a tremendous leg up in developing the tactics. You do have to still get used to glassing. There's no way around that. But I think as you do it, your gut will just naturally take you to the points where you're like, hey, that looks like where I would find a deer. And you know what? It probably is going to be pretty close. Now, I think another thing that's going to help you with tactics and mindset to a certain extent is the work that you've already done as a hunter. You already understand the sacrifices and the time commitment that come with it. Out west, a very common saying is, man, just glass until your eyeballs bleed. And while that's true, you do have to spend a lot of time in the glass and you have to be patient. I think you have to be tremendously more patient as a Midwest whitetail hunter, right? You climb up in a tree for an all-day sit and you're just sitting there. And if the woods are not moving, you are just sitting there looking, I don't know, 100 yards around you at absolutely nothing. At least in the glassing game, you are looking at a ton of country, and every time you move your binoculars, it could be the moment. It's a lot more engaging, and honestly, I think the patience, while still important, is much less in that world. So you're gonna be way ahead in that game as far as the mindset and the mental toughness that it takes to grind through a crappy day of hunting. So I think the big thing I can tell you on tactics is don't try and reinvent the wheel. Trust your gut. I didn't necessarily do that the first couple of years. Felt like I needed to reinvent that wheel and reinvent myself as a hunter. Now, don't get me wrong, there are benefits to reading up on elk, mule deer, antelope, whatever you're chasing. There's gonna be subtle differences, but you've spent a lot of time in the woods and you have gained a lot of knowledge. Trust that gut instinct. It's gonna carry you a lot farther out here than what you think it's going to. I do think there are 2 main points that you're gonna have to dive into that you're probably not super familiar with, but again, I'm gonna explain to you why it's not as daunting as you think. Number 1 of those is e-scouting. Now I know e-scouting is becoming a little bit bigger in the whitetail game, but it is an absolute necessity out west. It is really going to dictate success versus failure to a certain extent. And this is where it gets a little bit overwhelming. I know in Michigan, there are small little parcels of public land, or you're hunting a family farm and you can't venture outside of that. There's not a lot to look at. Well, out west, there's millions and millions of acres of public land. And with that comes a little bit of an information overload because you have to start digesting, well, I have to pick a spot from all of this land to go to. Now again, I think this is where you can trust your gut a little bit. You can look at a map and go, well, if I was a deer, I wouldn't be in this spot, so I can probably just rule that out. And you're probably gonna be pretty safe in saying that. But fine tuning where you're gonna go and what your spot is gonna be takes some time and takes some knowledge. This is gonna be one of the things that you want to research. Now we have a beginner e-scouting video. I'll throw the link up above. But there are a ton of good videos even outside of Deer and Donuts on YouTube to get you started e-scouting. And beyond that, just starting to develop those more advanced tips and tricks to be more successful. Now, surprise, this is where the free gear comes in. We're giving away one year Onyx Elite subscription. Now with that comes not only all 50 states available to you, so you can use it for your Midwest, East Coast, Southeast, east of here, e-scouting for whitetail, but you can also use it to start diving into this Western style hunting. It also gives you access to some of their cool tools, Route Builder, their beta for TerrainX, which really lets you narrow down very quickly what areas you think are gonna work for you. And potentially, most importantly, it gets you access to a video library of hunt classes that are going to help you build this Western skill set even further. Now, I will say, not sponsored by onX in any way. We just believe in the product. So if you want to check out what they have to offer, I'll throw a link down in the description. Go check it out. See what products might work for you, and you can check out what you can win with this elite subscription. So how do you get yourself entered? Real easy. All you gotta do, be a subscriber. That's it. That's all you gotta do. Be a subscriber until August 31st, midnight Phoenix time, and we will pick one of our subscribers to get that elite onX subscription. Now, if you want to up your chances, there's one other way. We are trying to build an e-scouting community through our Discord. YouTube won't let us make this membership free for whatever reason, so it is literally the bare minimum we can make it, which is like 99 cents a month. So if you go down, hit join, we'll give you 5 extra entries, and you can come hang out on Discord. I absolutely love e-scouting, so I will gladly help you with any of the hunts you want. But let's jump to the final topic, topic number 2 that I think you are going to have to adapt to, and that is shooting distances. Whether it's rifle, bow, muzzleloader, whatever the case may be, it is a lot more open out here. I can tell you on the hunts I have been on, none of our shots have been under 300 yards, and some of them have been up to 700. I don't like pushing it much further than that, but there are people that go out way further than even that. Back east, it's just not that common to reach out that far. You're looking at bow shots can get you out 70, 80 yards on an elk. You just need to be a lot more proficient with your weapon. Now, don't panic. I think you probably already have a good jumping off point. If you are a competent hunter and you have practiced with your rifle, bow, whatever the case may be, you probably already have the basics down really well. From there is just a little bit more time and a little bit more dedication to really start pushing that range. So there you have it. If you're looking to jump from Eastern whitetail to Western hunting, it's not as daunting as you think it's gonna be. There are a lot of opportunities, and it's never been more available to you. So if you've made the jump on down to the comments. Let me know what you think I missed, and if you have any questions, as always, I'm here to answer them. Don't forget, like, subscribe, all the things that YouTube makes us ask you to do. But until next time, I'm Matt with Deer and Donuts. Goodbye.